presenting a way to make life a lot simpler. The clapper. Turn on a light as you enter the room.
Clap on.
Turn off the TV without getting up.
Clap off.
Turn on the music.
Simple. Clap on. Clap off. Clap on, clap off. The clapper.
Alexa, turn on the light. Alexa, play my favorite San Francisco song.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting in the evening come.
That's so much better. Better. I want to focus on this concept of better. Better's good, right? But in chemical biological defense, is simply better our objective? With our national security on the line, with the lives of our amazing warfighters in the balance, is simply better good enough? Remember the Jetsons? I remember watching them and thinking, how crazy is that? He could go everywhere by flying. No traffic, no potholes. You want to go somewhere? You literally take off. For me growing up, not so much. My family drove a Chevy Monza hatchback. It was this horrible reddish-orange color. Nothing like George's car at all. George was also always making video calls. I, and many of us here, grew up before cell phones were even around. Yes, there was life before the iPhone. Imagine back then, the idea of a video call seemed beyond the beyond. Those two scenes are set in 2062, when George was 40 years old, which means George Jetson was born this year, 2022, July 31st to be exact. As tempted as I am to lead us in singing happy birthday, I'll let that pass. How many of us remember this guy? Dr. Leonard McCoy, or as we knew him, Bones. Damn it, Jim, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physicist, a coal miner, an escalator. The list is very long. Bones had some great lines. But you might be wondering, why am I showing you Jetsons and Star Trek clips? Because all these things seemed utterly implausible when they first aired. It was literally called science fiction. Except now, in 2022, they're all here. The Jetsons flying car. This June, the FAA approved the Sky Car by Samson. You can pre-order the Jetson 1, and yes, it's really called the Jetson 1. For just $22,000 down, you can expect your Jetson 1 car to be delivered next year. And those video calls, given the last couple of years, if you're like me, you're probably way over the whole video calling thing, right? In the realm of consumer technologies, we see massive disruption. And some of that is starting to trickle through chem biodefense. Remember how Bones used to scan patients to find out what was wrong with them? We have a program that can tell you if you're going to get sick, when you'll get sick, how sick you'll get, and when you'll recover. This program is called Persistent Readiness Through Early Prediction, or PrEP. It uses widely available commercial off-the-shelf devices, smartwatches and rings, to capture an individual's physiological data. PrEP then aggregates the data of all those users and applies algorithms that are under development to detect when a service member will develop the onset of symptoms up to 48 hours before they show up. The human body is the best detector, but only if it's paired with the right technology to make that data usable. Otherwise, you wake up one morning all achy, and you write it off to old age, I'm getting there, or not stretching before playing pickleball. Yeah, that's cool. However, those aches could be a sign of something much more serious. With PrEP, we get a head start. We can isolate the individual to minimize the spread. We can diagnose the illness and begin treatment all before the person even knows they're feeling sick. Even Bones had to wait for someone to get sick before he knew something was up. Now we can predict when you're about to get sick before you even know it. And you'll hear more about advances in this area from Geraldine Timlin from Sandia National Laboratory on their work on non-contact monitoring of human vital signs. The team is working on using a combination of visible and infrared sensors, as well as hyperspectral sensors, to gather a person's vital signs from a distance of 5 meters or less. Things that seemed entirely unimaginable just a decade ago are realities today. However, even those advances just scratch the surface of our ability to imagine and create. Innovation isn't a VCR that rewinds better. I'm borrowing that from Dr. Shosky, one of my division chiefs sitting over here. Thanks, Rich. No, innovation is digital streaming on your phone, on your watch. Anything you want to watch, anywhere, anytime. Innovation isn't a taxi cab with air conditioning that works. It's personalized medicine that one day will synthesize and predict a personalized treatment and inform what exact therapeutic, what dose is the perfect treatment for you. Innovation is disruptive, beyond the horizon advances. In chem biodefense, disruptive is an advance that fundamentally shifts the balance of power, an advance that, in effect, puts our adversaries out of business. Think of it as akin to what the cell phone did to the payphone, and then what the smartphone did to the cell phone, and so much more. To be sure, in chem biodefense, we've made some really significant advances over the last few years. Even so, the technologies our warfighters rely on are still, too often, VCR era. Consider the MOP suits our warfighters rely on. They were developed in the late 1980s, fielded in the 90s. What were you wearing back in the 80s? Miami Vice suits? Hammer time pants? I won't do the dance. Leg warmers? And those huge padded shoulders. It wasn't always pretty. Those are the fashions of the MOP suit era, and it's time for a change. And change, that disruption, is coming. We call it Tactical All Hazards Ensemble, or TACHAZE for short. The goal is to revolutionize warfighter chem bioprotective gear, to create a uniform that provides high levels of threat protection and maintain user lethality, but most importantly, it's easy to use and even comfortable to operate in. Tomorrow, in one of the breakout sessions, you'll hear from Greg Peterson from the U.S. Army DevCom Chemical and Biological Center. He and his team are developing metal organic framework-based composites for enhanced protection against chemical warfare agents. Unfortunately, the MOP suit isn't an outlier or a singular example. In too many areas, we continue to rely on past their prime technologies as we face future threats. Assay strips, they harken back to when? The 1950s? They make stuff from the 80s look modern. Here too, disruption is coming. We're developing a series of tools to characterize threats much faster and more accurately, all the way down to the genetic level. Tools that will be deployed with our troops on the battlefield. One project, called Far Forward Advanced Sequencing Technology, or FFAST for short, brings the lab to the front lines. The goal of FFAST is to detect emerging pathogens and engineered microorganisms at or near the front lines. We're leveraging industry advancements in this area to develop standalone, fieldable kits that are optimized to enhance forward deployed biodefense operations. Three of the biggest breakthroughs with FFAST are: we reduced time to answer by 80% plus, we reduced the logistical requirements and expertise, and we used targeted sequencing methods to detect more than 150 known threats or targets in one single test, versus needing a number of molecular assays which may only be able to detect 30 targets. We're also developing new methods of autonomous decontamination of vehicles, and I think this is really cool. Current methods used to decontaminate military vehicles are very labor and resource intensive. Full decontamination of large combat systems, things like tanks, can take hundreds of gallons of water per vehicle and require extensive warfighter labor. Decontamination of a company or a battalion of combat vehicles can easily tie up dozens of specialists and take literally tons of water. And the whole time, those that are doing the decon work are exposed to the very threat they're trying to remove. We're working to greatly reduce the troop-to-task ratio for contamination mitigation operations with a system that automatically detects the contamination, maps it, categorizes it, and then performs the proper decontamination procedures. And here's the kicker, all without human intervention. It's like a Roomba for Chem Bio, only much better. Likewise, the one-off way we develop vaccines goes way back. I mean, way back. You can argue it goes back to lab vaccines in the 20s and 30s, and we're changing that too. During COVID-19, we all saw how the messenger RNA or mRNA technology we in the Chem Bio Defense Program helped develop played a vital role in enabling the nation to develop vaccines at record-breaking speeds. We're living in a dynamic time of drug development and innovation with many beneficiaries, the most important being the patient. One of the most exciting and promising developments is platform technology, and it's revolutionary. A vaccine platform is a plug-and-play physical framework that can be used when developing vaccines for emerging infectious diseases such as COVID-19. Vaccine platforms use a base carrier or vehicle, such as a nucleic acid, a viral vector, or a liposome. That vehicle can then be used interchangeably to deliver a variety of vaccines to treat a variety of illnesses. Once designed and licensed for one vaccine, the development of future vaccines would simply require substituting that desired antigenic component or genetic compound that normally triggers that immune response. This enables much faster and cheaper development, regulatory approval, and production. One very important consideration in our push for disruption, to really get after innovating at the speed of relevance, is to do so in a manner that eases the approval and acquisition process. The challenge is to think big, bold thoughts and reduce the risk associated with the approval and future acquisition. That's a balancing act we need to understand and implement. You see that better balance in effect with our vaccine platforms. And again, it's getting better, so much better. Anyone recognize this guy? One of the greatest inventors ever. Back in the 15th century, ages before phones, TVs, even toilets, you name it, Leonardo da Vinci drew this up. It's his vision of what an airplane might look like. In fact, it looks somewhat like the B-2 bomber. That's the picture up there now. Or the new B-21 bomber we saw last week. Can you imagine what that guy would have innovated if he had all the tools we have today? AI, genetics, synthetic biology, robotics, and more computing power on your wrist than what it took to take Apollo 11 to the moon. Better, in Da Vinci's day, would have been a more comfortable saddle or a better sword. He was drawing up airplanes and parachutes to go with them. He even designed and built a robotic knight. Da Vinci didn't do simply better. Knowing what we know, having what we have today, what would Da Vinci come up with? I guarantee you it wouldn't be a better VCR, it wouldn't be a better assay strip. We need to think like Da Vinci. Think big and disruptive. Notwithstanding all the progress that I've mentioned, I fear we aren't really stretching ourselves yet. We can, and I think must, do better than simply better. We need to be radically disruptive. Our operating environment, the world we live in, changes so fast. We've blown by the knowledge doubling curve and Moore's law. What that means for you and us is that we have to continually innovate to stay ahead of those threats. We have to build resilience through innovation. As ASD Rosenblum discussed, we're at a pivot point in the Chem Bio Defense Program. As we adjust to those changing threats and the rapid evolution of technology. We can't do business the same old way when the world has changed so much. At the start of this talk, I asked Alexa to turn on that light. That was pretty cool, but let's push. Let's think bigger, faster, bolder, different. So this is an emotive device, emotive neural interface device. With it, I can think and turn that light off without saying or doing anything, or steer a car, or operate a robot, or maybe even a robot with a chem biodetector. What about one equipped for explosive ordnance disposal? You just think it, and it happens. Imagine that. What could that mean for chem biodefense? How bold can we think? How big can we imagine? How far can we push ourselves? For this, we need all of you. We can't do it on our own. That's why we're gathered here today, to compare notes, to imagine new disruptive advances to safeguard our warfighters and secure our nation. Push us. Don't bring us a better rewind button. Bring us something I can barely imagine, something I can't believe is even real. Albert Einstein, one of humankind's greatest thinkers and innovators, said, "As our circle of knowledge expands, so does the circumference of darkness surrounding it." Out there somewhere, beyond what we see now in today's light, there's something nobody's dreamed up. Not yet, anyway, but it's out there. It's waiting to be seen. It's waiting to be created. It's waiting for you, me, all of us. Let's get to work.